My name is Lillian, I am 27 years old, and I am standing in the middle of my almost empty apartment, surrounded by the echo that is born between the bare walls, as if my own thoughts are now louder than usual, boxes scattered around the room as a reminder that everything I once called home is now packed and awaiting its final journey. Tomorrow I am moving to California, sunny, distant, so unfamiliar, but so desired, and, frankly, I am not just waiting for this, I am counting the days, hours, minutes, just to leave this city, which has long since become cramped and alien. Lillian, where do you want me to put these books? Sarah's voice was heard from the depths of the apartment, and a moment later she appeared on the threshold, swaying under the weight of the box, which, judging by her tense face, was clearly beyond her strength. Sarah is one of the few who remained nearby, who knew a little more than the rest. Just leave it by the door, I say, wiping my hands on an old t-shirt and standing up to take the box from her. I'm planning on selling most of them anyway. And before we continue, write in the comments from which city you are watching this video. Enjoy watching. I reach for the tape, sealing another chapter of this life with duct tape, as if I could truly seal the past so it wouldn't get out. The box clicks under my fingers, the glue holding the cardboard together securely, and I sigh, not from exhaustion but from the feeling that something important is about to be left behind forever. Thank you for helping me through all of this, I say, not looking at them. The words come out automatically, but they're more than polite, they're my rock. No problem, Sarah says, sitting down on the old couch I'm not taking with me. It creaks under her weight, and there's something unsettling about the sound, a reminder of things that will be left behind. I still can't believe you're actually leaving, she continues, looking at me with the expression true friends give when they sense that you're leaving in more than just a physical way. Are you sure you don't want to tell your parents? She asks carefully, as if she already knows the answer, but hoping that I'll change my mind. I laugh, not the kind of laugh that brings relief, not the kind that hides joy, no, it's a bitter laugh, through clenched teeth, through years of unsaid things. Sarah, they don't even know where I live now. Tell me, why would I tell them that I'm moving to another state? Mike, our third musketeer, loyal and a little cynical, returns from the kitchen. So remind me again, he says, sitting down on the windowsill, why doesn't your family know about this? I don't answer right away, I just sink to the floor. There's nothing left where the dining room table used to be, almost everything is gone now, just me and the boxes and these two, my real people, my chosen ones. Because they never cared about my life, I say slowly, as if each word needs to be cut out from the inside, as if they still hurt, and I'm not saying that to be dramatic, I really didn't. Sarah and Mike exchange glances. Over the years, they've heard bits and pieces, torn out like missing pages from a book no one wanted to finish. I never told the whole story, the whole story. You see, when I was a kid, everything revolved around my brother David, I begin, and something forgotten, fragile, comes into my voice. He's 2 years older than me, and from day one, he was the golden child. I was 8 years old when I won the school science fair. I stood at the board, proud, shaking, with this fragile model of the solar system I had made myself, and my parents? They said, "That's great, honey," and almost immediately they switched over, discussing another goal David had scored, remembering how deftly he had gotten around the defense, how the coach had praised him in front of the whole team. I sat next to him, holding my diploma, which was still lying on the refrigerator among the receipts. At 12, I was trying my best, on a roll almost every semester, but they didn't seem to care, and when David got into the varsity football team, oh, they threw a party. With balloons, with banners, with a buffet, like he'd saved the country, and not just gotten into the sports section. That's bullshit, Mike said quietly, shaking his head. His eyes were full of anger for me, and for some reason it warmed me. It only got worse when we became teenagers, I continued. David wanted to go to an expensive private college, and my parents, of course, were happy to pay. I knew then that I wouldn't get that, and I knew, on my 18th birthday, they sat me down at the table, formally, without cake, without candles, and told me that now I was an adult and could decide for myself where to go, because, you see, the money had already gone to David's education. Wait, what? Sarah even sat up. They were serious? Yeah, I nodded. So I took matters into my own hands, got a full scholarship to study computer science, because it turns out I was good at it, moved into a dorm, got a part-time job to pay for everything else, and stopped talking to them almost entirely. I didn't get invited home for the holidays anymore, I added more quietly. Only once a year I get a text, "Happy birthday," and that's it. I stand up, stretching my back, and tape up another box, heavy as memories. The tape creaks, breaking the silence. After graduation, nothing changed, I say, feeling my voice grow firmer. I got a job at a software company, worked from home, saved up for a place to live. Meanwhile, my mother, do you know what she was doing? She wrote on Facebook about how proud she was of David. A few years ago, pictures from his office party when he got promoted. Last month, pictures from his engagement party. Wait, Mike frowned. They didn't invite you to his engagement party? No, I shook my head, but I'm not surprised. I figured that out a long time ago. I'm not part of their family. David is their son, and I'm just someone they share DNA with. Sarah stood up silently, walked around the room, her footsteps echoing faintly in the emptiness, and suddenly she hugged me tightly, pressing her cheek to mine, and I felt her hands tremble slightly, not from the cold, but perhaps from some quiet, unspoken sadness. "I'm sorry, Lillian," she said, almost whispering, as if she was afraid that the words might break the fragile shell I had spent so long building around myself. "It really does suck," I chuckled, although the corners of my eyes prickled, not painfully, but a reminder that the feelings were still alive. "It's okay," I said, trying to sound confident. "I've been through all of this before. In fact, that's why I'm so excited about this move." I exhaled and looked out the window, where the evening was slowly falling behind the glass, as if covering the city for my last night here. I got an amazing offer from a tech company in Silicon Valley. The salary is almost double what I make now, and the work itself looks so interesting that sometimes I wake up in the morning and wonder if this is really happening to me. It's like a fresh start. It's like I'm finally moving past everything that's happened and moving toward where I want to be. "This is amazing," Mike said, genuine joy in his voice. And those 3 words were more supportive than I'd ever heard from my family in my entire adult life. "You deserve it." "Thank you," I said, and a lump formed in my throat, because it suddenly became clear, I'm not alone, I'm not invisible, I'm not superfluous, I matter to someone. And the best part about all this is that I didn't have to ask my parents for help. I didn't tell them anything. I did everything myself. I found this job myself, negotiated my salary myself, chose the apartment in California myself, organized the move myself, without their participation, without their permission, without their assessment. Sarah laughed, that warm, kind laugh I'd always loved, and said, looking at me with a hint of irony but also respect and admiration, "Look at you, so independent, so successful. I'm so proud of you." I nodded, feeling my face warm with emotion, suddenly flooding like a tide, but I didn't try to stop it. I've been saving for years, I admit. Sometimes I denied myself even small things, because I knew that one day I would want something of my own, and now, with this new salary, I'll be able to buy my own house, maybe not right away, but within a year or two, somewhere quiet, safe, where I can work from home in peace. I don't need much, just the internet to write code, and some peace and quiet. We finished packing the last of the boxes, each one like a closed page, neatly folded into an archive, and then, almost simultaneously, we decided that we needed to eat something, and ordered pizza, our usual cheese, mushrooms and olives, and ate it sitting on the floor, because everything else had either been sold, or packed, or thrown away. It was a strange feeling to be in an empty apartment, like you no longer belonged here, but you hadn't moved on yet, like you were standing on a bridge between the past and the future, and you could feel the wind of change playing in your hair, promising something more. I looked at the walls that had witnessed my sleepless nights, tears, joys, first loves, and I suddenly felt warm and a little anxious. "So, what are your plans for tomorrow?" Sarah asked, taking a bite out of her last piece and wiping her fingers on a paper napkin. "My flight is at 2:00 p.m., I answered, looking at her. "I'm taking the last few boxes with me as luggage. Everything else has already been sent to California. I found a nice apartment, online, of course, and I'm starting work on Monday. Did you tell Grandma you're moving?" Mike asked, tilting his head, and there was something special, respectful, in his voice. "Yes, I called her last week," I said, and my voice became softer. Because we were talking about the person whose love had been a rare light in my childhood. She's the only one in the family who actually cares. She wished me luck and made me promise to call her as soon as I got settled. She's my father's mother, and she was always different from everyone else. She really listened to me. She remembered little things that even I forgot. She was the one who helped me apply for a scholarship when my parents didn't even bother to ask. She was the one who called me first to congratulate me on my first job. She's basically the only person in my family I still talk to regularly. That's so sweet, Sarah said, her eyes shining with some kind of quiet, kind envy. I'm glad you have her. Me too, I whispered. She's almost 75, but she's still smart as hell. She sees right through my parents, but she's too polite to ever say anything outright, and yet, she's always been on my side. We finished the pizza and just sat there, looking at the half-empty room, at the evening light creeping through the blinds, and talked about California, about the new job, about how much I was going to miss them, and it was nice. These were real conversations, not out of politeness, not out of obligation, but out of love. These people, Sarah and Mike, they really care about me, they care about what's going on in my life. They rejoice in my victories, celebrate them with me, even if there are no balloons, cakes, or a buffet. I'll miss you guys, I said, and my voice trembled. We'll miss you too, Sarah said, but we'll stay in touch, always, and maybe we'll come visit you in California. I'd be happy to, I smiled. As soon as I buy a place, I'll definitely have a guest room, especially for you. When they left, I was alone in this almost soundless apartment. I sat on the floor, right where my bed used to be, and just sat there, listening to the water running through the pipes somewhere in the walls at night. Tomorrow I'm flying to California. Tomorrow I'm starting my new life. No family drama, no heavy feeling of being an outsider among family, no watching my parents fawn over David while ignoring my existence as if I were an extra line in their family annals. Now it's just me, my career, and my future. Everything will be fine. It's been 6 months since I left that old apartment, that old life, and everything that remained unspoken and unloved in it. Now I'm sitting in my new apartment in California, on a cozy balcony overlooking the hills bathed in soft evening light, and I have to admit, life is surprisingly good. Not just in the mundane sense, no, it's good in the deepest, most human sense of the word. When you open your eyes in the morning and don't want to bury yourself back under the covers out of fear, anxiety, or loneliness. Working at a tech company turned out to be even better than I could have imagined. Interesting challenges, clear goals, a boss who really sees my contribution and regularly thanks me, rather than forgetting to mention me when others do something. My colleagues are smart, lively, responsive. It's a pleasure to spend even lunch breaks with them, which for me, an introvert, is almost a feat. The salary is everything that was promised, and even more than I dared to hope for. I'm saving like crazy because for the first time in my life I feel like I have not only a goal, but also the resources to achieve it. I don't feel like I'm deprived or sacrificing anything. I've just been so used to living frugally for so long that every little bit of money I put aside is an investment in my personal security, my independence. With my current income, I expect to have a down payment on a house by the end of the year or so, a real, quiet house with a garden, a terrace, and reliable internet. Everything I need. I regularly browse real estate websites and almost always focus on houses outside the city, where the air is cleaner, neighbors rarely peer over the fence, and you can write code in silence and drink coffee in the morning, listening to the wind rustling in the trees. And so I just leaned back in my chair when the phone rings, an unknown number. My first instinct was to ignore it. I don't take random calls anymore. I don't want to let strangers get too close, but this time, I don't know why, my finger still pressed answer. Lillian, said the voice on the other end, and I recognized it immediately, although it didn't sound surprised, happy, or excited. It sounded irritated. It was my father. I hadn't heard from him since I moved. In fact, I don't remember the last time he called me at all, maybe 5 years ago? You need to come home for dinner next Saturday, he said in a tone that brooked no argument. Not, how are you, Lillian, or we missed you. Just a statement, you have to. What dinner? I asked, and everything inside me tensed up, as if my body already knew that it would have to fight back. David's fiancé's parents want to meet you, he said curtly, as if explaining the obvious. They are traditional people. For them, family is sacred. They found out that David has a sister, and naturally they wanted to meet her. It is important for David's future. I'm sure it is really important for him, I answered coldly, feeling that old, familiar mixture of fatigue and sarcasm boiling inside me, but I will not come. What do you mean when you say you will not come? My father's voice became sharper, growing like a wave that thinks that it can wash away everything in its path, but now I am not the shore that is easily destroyed. Exactly what I said, I will not come to your dinner party. I sat down more comfortably, smiled into the void and added, actually, it's even funny. What's funny about it? Now my voice was shaking with anger, but I continued, calmly, even with some kind of evil amusement. You want to know why I'm not coming? I can give you 3 reasons. First, we're not the perfect family you might like to think we are. You have a favorite, David, and me? I'm an extra. Second, I'm not going to pretend to be part of a happy family to strangers just because you want to keep up appearances. And third, I can't physically come because I moved to California 6 months ago. There was silence on the other side, not just a pause, but a real, deep, ringing silence. I could almost hear him digesting my words, like they were poison he couldn't swallow right away. You moved to California and never told us? Why? You never asked where I lived, never asked. And then he exploded, how dare you move across the country without telling your family? We need to know where you live, the address, immediately. I was laughing outright. Dad, do you remember my old address? The one where I lived for 3 years? Silence. Exactly, you don't remember, because you didn't care, you never cared about my life, so why should I tell you now where I live, what I do, who I talk to? Lillian, you can't just, he began, but I was already pressing end call. A moment later, the phone rang again. It was him again. I didn't answer, then Mom, then David. I turned off the sound and turned on voicemail. The messages started pouring in, first short, then longer, then irritated, then caring. Lillian, family is important. We shouldn't fight like this. Just one dinner, you can come right back. It's important for David. Just call us. You're being ridiculous. Calls, messages, more calls, as if they suddenly remembered my existence and were sincerely outraged that I no longer twitched at their command. I silently picked up my phone, without looking at the screen, set it to silent mode and put it in the drawer of the kitchen table, as if it were not a means of communication, but a source of noise from which I wanted to hide. Then, with some kind of demonstrative slowness, I went to the kitchen to cook myself dinner, something simple but warm, which fills the house with aroma and lets the body know, you are home, you are safe, you are alone. And this is not at all bad. I opened the refrigerator, took out the vegetables, turned on the stove, put the frying pan on to heat up, and suddenly caught myself thinking that this feeling, freedom from other people's demands and insults, is something completely new, almost unbelievable. I do not need to explain to anyone why I do this or that. I do not need to agree to the role that someone has drawn for me without my consent. All of a sudden, family concern arose, not because they really began to care how I am, where I am, whether I am happy. No, David just needed his fiancée's parents to think he was from a good, wholesome, traditional family, and suddenly, my role as the loving, proud, smiling sister was needed in this play. What a convenience, you know. Where was that care when I was sitting alone in my dorm room, warming a bowl of cheap ramen with my hands because I couldn't afford normal food? When I was working nights, writing code to pay for textbooks, and not knowing how I was going to make it to the end of the month? Where was the family then? Where was David with his proud then? The calls and messages kept coming, the first day, the second, the third. I didn't answer any of them. Some were polite, full of attempts to appeal to conscience, others were openly irritated, as if I had violated their family script and now needed to urgently correct the plot. There were also some that were clearly trying to buy me off. We can help with the apartment, we'll send you tickets, it must be hard for you there alone. And then, just anger. I read them without opening them. Just saw the preview on the screen, and it became increasingly clear to me how little of the truth there was in those words. On the third day, my grandmother called, a quiet hi, dear, said with the calm that only she knew how to maintain, instantly brought back the feeling that I was still, somewhere, truly dear to someone. How are you there, in California? Have you settled in yet? She asked, and I almost felt her smile, that same warm, slightly ironic one. Really? Well, I'm so glad to hear it. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone to my ear with both hands. I really like it here, Grandma. I feel like this place is really mine, she exhaled. I'm so glad to hear it. Listen, your parents asked me to talk to you. I closed my eyes. Let me guess. They want you to convince me to come to dinner at David's. They are, she confirmed. But before you say anything, I want you to know that I'm not going to pressure you. I never have. I understand how things were between you. I know how you were treated, I saw it all, and honestly, I wouldn't have gone myself if I were you. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered, my throat immediately feeling hot. That means a lot. They're upset that you moved without telling them, she said carefully, as if testing how much depth she could go. But, honey, they didn't even know where I lived before. They never asked. Is that my fault? Of course not, she answered firmly. I've watched your father pretend everything is okay for years, as if love on a schedule is normal. I've tried to talk to him, but he doesn't want to hear it. He thinks everything is okay because he decides it is. I appreciate you trying, I really do. Just know, she continued, you don't owe anyone anything. You're a grown woman, you're independent, you're successful. You have the right to live your life the way you see fit. If you're in pain, leave. If you're happy without them, be happy. I support you. When we said goodbye, I hung up with a light heart. The world was still imperfect, but at least Grandma was in it. Saturday came and went without much noise. I spent it in the mountains, not far from home, climbing a narrow path through eucalyptus and pine trees, breathing in the spicy air and feeling the tension disappear. I didn't think about my family, about the messages, about the voices on the other end of the line. I just lived. But on Sunday morning the phone rang again. Lillian, my father began, and his voice was not so much tired as strained, as if he were playing a role he did not like. We told David and his family that you were ill. That's why you didn't come to dinner. Okay, I said, the wedding is in a month, you have to be there. I'm not coming, I said calmly, not defiantly, but with confidence. Lillian, it's your brother's wedding, you have to. No, you don't have to. A pause, then a threat. If you don't come, if you don't prove yourself to the bride's family, I will disinherit you. I will break off all contact with you. I almost dropped the phone. I laughed, loudly, heartily, as I hadn't laughed for a long time. You're going to disinherit me, Dad? I said through my laughter, I make more than you, Mom, and David combined. I don't need your money. There was silence, the kind when the person on the other end of the line realizes that all the weapons in their arsenal are fake. Is it true? He asked finally, about your salary? If you'd ever taken an interest in my life, you'd know that I work for a major tech company, that I'm a valued professional, that I live well, on my own, without you. And then his voice changed, it became soft, almost gentle. Lillian, we've always been proud of you, we just want you to come home, for everything to be like before. I didn't answer, I just silently pressed end call. An hour later, a message from David arrived. He wrote how proud he was of me, how he'd always thought of me, how much he missed me. It was pathetic, because I knew all too well that if they hadn't found out that I was successful, none of this would have happened. Only now, when I no longer needed them, did they suddenly decide that I was worthy of their attention. I had had enough. I was not going to tolerate this theatrical performance in which I was suddenly given a role, just because it was needed in their family play. I opened the list of contacts on my phone, with icy calm found the names of my father, my mother, David, each one separately, and without flinching, blocked their numbers, and then deleted them forever, like pulling out the root of a weed so that it will not grow in your soil again. I felt my shoulders sag, as if I had dropped a sack of stones that I had been dragging on my back for years. Now I was building my life myself, brick by brick, with love, self-respect, and without their false interest, without the eternal disappointed sighs, without the cold that hung between us even in the warmest rooms. I was no longer a participant in their drama. I stepped out of the script, and the door slammed behind me. A month passed, and, frankly, it was the quietest, most peaceful, most real month in many years. No unexpected calls, no manipulations, no guilt that, like rust, ate away from within, just me, my work. Morning coffee on the balcony, long walks along the embankment, new acquaintances, fresh projects, and this feeling that I finally belonged to myself. During lunch breaks, as if on schedule, I opened my laptop and looked at houses, neat, cozy, in green areas about an hour's drive from San Jose, with gardens in which you want to plant roses and put a hammock. I liked the very idea of living somewhere where the silence is not disturbed by shouting, demands, or comparisons, and even though I don't have children, the thought that there are good schools nearby somehow warmed my soul. Stability, roots, a simple life where I decide what's important. On Sunday afternoon, the phone rang. I looked at the screen, Grandma, and my heart warmed involuntarily. "Hello, dear." Her voice was the same as always, even, kind, and a little tired, like people who know a lot, but do not always say it out loud. "How are you?" "Very well," I answered, and it was the truth. "I'm looking online at home. I think I found a few that I want to see in person." "That's wonderful, Lillian." She was happy. "I was just about to tell you about this. I have a couple of photos that I'll send you now." "Oh, good. How did it go?" I knew what I was asking. Grandma did not pretend not to understand. "It was tense," she said with a pause. "Your parents were not happy about your absence. They kept making up excuses for why you weren't there, and to be honest, it was ridiculous." "What excuses?" I asked, leaning back on the couch, already sensing the absurdity of what was happening. "First they said you were still sick, then they said you had to stay at work, and then it was business trip, delayed flight." I don't think the bride's parents believed a single word of it. "It must have been awkward," I sighed. "Oh, yes," my grandmother confirmed. "Everyone felt the tension, and David looked like he was waiting for you to show up the whole time. He kept looking at his phone. He must have been hoping you'd change your mind and come at the last minute." "Well, that's not my problem," I said, and I heard my voice grow a little colder. "No, it's not yours," she agreed, "but, Lillian, there's something else you need to know. A few days before the wedding, the bride's parents had a very unpleasant conversation with your parents." I was wary. "What conversation?" "Apparently they did a little investigating of their own," Grandma said slowly. "They found out that your parents had been ignoring you for years, that David had always been their #1 priority. They didn't like that." I froze. "Really? They said that out loud?" "Yes," she confirmed. "From what I understood, they told your parents straight out that they were disappointed in the way they treated you, and even questioned whether they wanted their daughter to marry into that kind of family." "Wow," was all I could say. "That's unexpected, and even nice." "There was a serious conflict between the bride's parents and yours," Grandma continued. "It all hung in the air and accompanied the wedding from beginning to end. The atmosphere was oppressive. Everyone felt the tension." "Did the bride's parents say anything directly to David?" "I think so. I heard from your cousin that he was asked why he never mentioned that he had a sister, and why you are not involved in his life." "And what did he say?" "I don't know for sure," Grandma admitted, "but, apparently, the conversation did not go well. The bride looked upset almost the entire time, even at the ceremony, like she expected something to go wrong." Later that day, Grandma did send me photos. I opened my laptop and started scrolling through them, and there they were, my parents, standing under the arch, forced smiles, as if they were forced to smile under threat of dismissal. Their faces are tense, their eyes darting. Mom looks like she doesn't know what to do with herself. Dad, he seems to be trying to look calm, but his fingers are clasped tightly in the photo, as if he is clinging to control itself. And David, he doesn't just look embarrassed, he is clearly out of his element. In every frame, he turns around, as if searching for someone in the crowd. I know who. The last of the wedding photos sent by Grandma was still burning on my laptop screen, in which the bride's parents were standing a little further away, with straight backs and an expression that did not contain a hint of joy, but only a restrained severity that shone through even through the screen. Their lips were pressed together, their eyes were directed somewhere to the side, but certainly not at my parents. Standing next to them with strained, almost artificial smiles. I looked at this and couldn't help but smile. "It's perfect," I murmured to the empty room, looking around at the cozy environment I had created myself, not for anyone's expectations, not for praise, but simply because I wanted to live in a space where I felt good. The next morning, a little after 9, the phone rang. I recognized the number immediately. "Lillian," my grandmother said in that voice that always had room for both sympathy and restraint, "I wanted to tell you what's going on with your parents." "What's going on?" I asked, mechanically pouring myself some coffee and sitting down on the windowsill overlooking the yard, where 2 old maple trees grew. "Well, it looks like the bride's parents are still unhappy," she began carefully, as if weighing each word. "They keep asking questions about why you weren't at the wedding, and, frankly, they don't believe any of the versions your parents have voiced." "Wonderful," I said, taking a sip. So the truth is starting to leak out. Your parents are starting to panic, Grandma continued. They're starting to realize that their treatment of you could have consequences, not just for them, but for David's marriage and his future relationships with this family. Well, I said, feeling a wave of calm determination rise in my chest, that's their problem, not mine. I know, dear, Grandma said softly, but I thought you should know. They seem to be realizing that their actions have consequences. I really appreciate you keeping me informed, Grandma, I said after a pause, but I don't care what happens to them. I've been the object of their indifference and feigned concern for too long. I've had enough of this endless drama. I understand perfectly, she replied. You built a good life for yourself, you don't need their problems. And she was right. I had a stable, honest life that I had built up, brick by brick, day by day. I had a job where I wasn't just needed, but valued, an apartment that was cozy, a checking account that had enough money in it each month to allow me to think about the future without worry. I looked at real estate listings, looked for a house, made new friends, at work, at the gym, in hiking groups. I went to the mountains on weekends, breathing air that was free of guilt, shame, or expectation. I was alive, and it was a miracle. How are you coping with all this, Grandma? I asked. It's fine, honey, she replied. I've watched this family dynamic for years. I always knew the truth would come out one day. It's just a shame it took so long. You've always been good to me, I whispered, the only one who ever really cared, because you were always a good girl, Lillian, she said, and there was something maternal, something real in her voice. Your parents were just too blind to notice. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time, letting her words sink in, layering like a warm blanket. Somewhere deep inside, I felt relieved, not because my parents were facing the consequences, but because I no longer had anything to do with it. The storm was now swirling somewhere far away, and I was standing on the shore, dry and calm. I spent the rest of the day looking at listings, and then, almost by chance, I found a house that seemed perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a neat green yard, a porch with space for a rocking chair, high-speed internet, and all this in a quiet neighborhood, about an hour's drive from the office. But since I was working remotely most of the time, it didn't matter. I immediately called the agent and set up a viewing for the following weekend. The price was affordable, especially on my income. I did the math. I could easily put a 20% down payment and still have some left over for furniture, insurance, and even a little bit for an emergency fund. I was actually making money now, and, more importantly, I was spending it the way I wanted. That evening, I was making dinner when my phone vibrated. A message, an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, thinking it was probably the agent confirming an appointment. But when I picked up the phone, my heart sank. It was David. Lillian, I know you blocked our numbers, but I have a new phone, we need to talk. I stared at the screen as if it were a foreign object, then I hit delete. 5 minutes later, another message. My family is asking questions about you. It's affecting my marriage. Delete. A minute later. Please just call me back. I know we've messed up. Delete. The last message came as I was about to turn off the phone. Lillian, I'm sorry. We're all sorry. Can we please talk? I turned off the phone without a word and went back to the stove. The onions were starting to brown. The aroma of garlic filled the kitchen, and I thought, I'm not falling for this. Their regrets aren't remorse. They're simply reacting to the fact that the consequences of their actions have begun to affect their own interests. Their pity isn't because they finally see me as a person, a daughter, a sister. It's because it's made their precious David uncomfortable. They don't regret the years I spent alone, struggling, in silence. They regret that now it's beginning to affect them. I am having dinner on the balcony, and the evening sun, gilding the distant mountain peaks, casts long shadows on the wooden floor beneath my bare feet. It is quiet around, as it is only in the suburbs during the warm season. Somewhere in the distance a dog is barking, birds are calling to each other in the treetops, and this rhythm of nature, measured, warm and calm, has become the background of my new life. I am finishing a warm vegetable stew, feeling a light breeze stir my hair, and I think tomorrow I will write to the realtor about that house. If everything goes as I hope, then in a few months I will be able to call myself a homeowner. The thought sounds almost unbelievable, but at the same time so mundane, so adult. Exactly a year has passed since the moment I left my old apartment, closed the door without regret and got on a plane to California. Today I stand in the kitchen of my own home, not a rented corner, not a temporary home, but a real one, with the keys in my pocket. With my name on the documents, my home. Sometimes I still can't believe that this is not a dream, not an accident, but the result of everything I've lived through, decided, defended. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a neat yard where apricots and pomegranates bloom, and the internet that works better than anywhere else. I turn on the coffee maker, inhaling the familiar aroma of morning routine, when the phone rings. Grandma. Hello, Grandma, how are you? I ask, smiling, even before she has a chance to say anything. I'm fine, dear, she replies with the warmth that always envelopes you like a blanket on a cool evening. How do you like the new house? It's perfect, I answer sincerely. I love it here. I have my own office. I can work from home whenever I want. The neighborhood is quiet. The neighbors are wonderful. I'm so happy for you, Lillian, she says. And there's no trace of envy in her voice, only pride. You really deserve all this. Thank you. Sometimes I still can't believe that this is happening to me. I'm 28, and I already own a house. And I feel like it's just the beginning. You can be proud of yourself. You've come a long way, and you did it yourself. I'm so proud of you. There's a moment of silence, and I feel something in her voice change. Are you planning on staying here for a long time? Maybe forever? Yeah, I think so. I'm happy here. What about you? I have some news about my family, if you want. I sit down at the kitchen table, cupping my coffee mug in my hands. Sure, I guess, go ahead. Things aren't going well with David, she begins slowly. The bride's parents still haven't forgiven you for not being at the wedding. They keep coming back to that conversation, and frankly, it's stressful. I suppose David feels sorry now? I say with a slight grin, maybe. And, your parents are still trying to figure out how to contact you. They've been asking everyone if they have your address or number. I hope no one gives it to them. Of course not, she assures me. I told everyone you deserve privacy, and if you want to talk, you'll find a way. Thank you, Grandma, it means a lot to me. Your father calls me every couple of weeks, asking me to convince you to come, and what do you tell him? That it's none of my business, that you're an adult and you decide how to build your own life. He says he misses you, that he wants to fix everything, but then he always mentions how successful you are, how proud they are of you now. So they still don't understand. No, they don't understand, dear. They're sure it's about the success, the money. They still haven't realized that it's not about who you've become, but about how they've treated you all these years. They still don't know the difference. After our conversation, I walk slowly through the house. In the living room, there's a soft sofa, the very one I chose myself, thinking of Sarah curling up on it with a book. There's a TV. And on the wall is a landscape of the ocean, my first canvas, bought not on sale, but because I really liked it. In the office there is a neat desk, a lamp, a couple of plants, a shelf of books, and a quiet place where it is easy to think. The guest room is ready, fresh linens, a small bouquet on the nightstand, waiting for Sarah and Mike, who are arriving next month. I think about my grandmother's words. A year ago, I might have been worried, I would have been tormented by guilt. I would have been shaking with anxiety, but now nothing, no anger, no resentment, no longing, just an even calm. I made the right choice when I moved, when I ended everything, without their pressure, without trying to please, without the constant lack of love. My life became cleaner, clearer, happier, and it was right. Late in the evening, when the sky in the west played with orange and pink hues, and I sat on the back porch with a cup of tea, enjoying the last warm rays, my phone vibrated. I glanced at the screen, a message, a new number. Lillian, it's Mom, I have a new number. Please call me, we need to talk. I stare at the message for a long moment, not with surprise or alarm, but with the quiet clarity that comes when you've made up your mind. Lillian, it's Mom, I have a new number. Please call me, we need to talk. No apology, no admission of guilt, just another request, a demand, a soft one, wrapped in politeness, but still a demand. I silently press delete and place the phone on the table next to the empty cup. 2 hours pass, another message. Lillian, I know you've been getting these messages. Your father and I know we've made mistakes. We want to make things right. I feel nothing but mild boredom. Delete. Another one follows. We're proud of what you've accomplished. We should have been different parents. Delete. Please give us a chance to explain. Delete. Then comes the final chord. As always with drama, David's marriage is in jeopardy because of all this. You are our daughter. We love you. I can't help but laugh out loud, loudly. as if someone had told a particularly ridiculous joke. Then, still calmly, I delete this message too. The messages keep coming over the next few days: my mother, my father, David, some cousins I haven't seen in 15 years, they all start texting me, as if on cue, trying different approaches, like they're playing some long-forgotten game, first trying to make me feel guilty, then bribing me with praise, then appealing to family loyalty, and some even resorting to subtle, thinly veiled threats, but I don't respond. I'm not joining their theater, I'm not reaching for the role they're trying so hard to force on me. I've had enough. I block each new number as soon as it appears. Soon I'm changing my phone number, sharing it only with people who are truly important to me. I check my privacy settings, make sure my address isn't listed anywhere online, and I feel the air around me getting cleaner. A month passes. I'm sitting at a large table in a restaurant with my colleagues, our usual Friday night after work. Easy conversation, laughter, glasses of wine, someone I've rarely interacted with before suddenly turns to me and asks, "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" I smile and, without a moment's hesitation, answer, "No, just me." "What about my parents?" She continues carefully. "They don't play a big role in my life anymore." "Oh, I'm sorry. That must be hard." "Actually," I say calmly, "it was the best decision I've ever made, and I mean that without exaggeration. I don't miss them, I don't care how they're doing, I don't feel guilty, I'm just living my life." 6 months later, I get a promotion, not just a raise. I'm now managing an entire team of developers. My boss tells me I'm one of the most brilliant programmers she's ever worked with, and the recognition is especially meaningful because I know how much work I put into myself. I celebrate my achievement however I want. I buy myself a new car, go on vacation to Japan, walk the streets of Tokyo with my camera, try street food, listen to the noise of the metropolis and feel free. I send my grandmother pictures from the roof of a skyscraper, from blooming gardens in Kyoto, from temples shrouded in fog. She calls back, "You're living your best life, honey," she says, and I hear her smile. "Really, Grandma, I've never been happier. That's all I ever wanted for you." "I know, thank you for always being there." When I get home, I find an envelope in my mailbox. There's no return address, but I recognize the handwriting instantly. A letter from my father. Somehow, he got my address. I hold it in my hands for a few seconds, then, without opening it, I drop it straight into the trash. I don't need them to explain themselves. I don't need their apologies. I don't need regrets, confessions, inheritances, or their belated pride. Everything they couldn't give me for so long, I gave myself. I have a home where I feel safe. I have a career where I am respected. I have friends with whom I laugh until I cry. I have a grandmother who has always understood me. I have a future that I am moving into with confidence and without looking back. I am planning to expand the house, maybe add a gym or turn one of the rooms into a workshop. I am thinking about getting a dog, maybe a golden retriever. I take online courses, not for a career, not for the benefit, just because I am interested in them. My life is rich, deep, full of meaning that was not there before. Sometimes I catch myself thinking, what if everything had been different? What if my parents had believed in me when I was a child, supported me, rejoiced at my successes, protected me, loved me unconditionally? What if they had seen me as a daughter, and not David's shadow? But then I realized that if they had been different, I might not have become who I am now. I would not have become the woman who earns her own money, makes her own decisions, chooses who to let into her life and who not. I would not be strong, I would not be free, I would not be myself, and that means I would not be happy. But I am happy,